Thank you and good evening. My name is Reverend Eric Nyako, and I'm the President-elect for Shining Waters Regional Council. With me on screen is Reverend Jody McBee, who is the regional staff lead. People of God, the Executive Minister, Peter Hartman, had to send his regrets. We want to welcome you to this town hall. And I want to begin by offering an acknowledgement. It is with gratitude that we acknowledge the gifts of the Creator and give thanks to the nations who for thousands of years have cared for this land, the Anishaba, the Hodani, Ilonwanda, Ojibe, Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Metis and other nations who arrived later. Those of us in the region who are non-Indigenous honor and respect this land on which we are settlers. We give thanks to all life that the land supported before and after settlers arrived. In keeping with the dish with one spoon welcome covenant, to share and care, Shining Waters Regional Council strive to live and minister in a spirit of peace, friendship, and respect, and to build equitable relationship with all those with whom we share the land. We are treaty people, and we also acknowledge that some of the lands we are on are unceded. May we as a region honor all our relationships and answer the call to actively live in peace and harmony. The first call is in our regional mission statement, is to live in right relation with Indigenous people and respond positively and meaningfully to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission calls to action and the caretakers of our Indigenous circle, their calls to the church. The second is to become an anti-racist church. We strive to make this meeting, all gatherings of Shining Waters Regional Council, a safe space for people of all abilities, any sexual orientation and gender identity, racialized persons and all others who are marginalized and have been excluded and harmed by the church. At this time, I will invite the Reverend Jody McBee to lead us in prayer.
Thank you. Let's gather our hearts and minds together in prayer. Loving God, we ask your blessing on the people gathered virtually tonight. May your Holy Spirit move within each one of us, between us and around us, filling and surrounding us with your love, wisdom, care, and courage. And we ask this in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. And thank you very much, Jody, for the prayers. Friends, the purpose for tonight's gathering is to learn about the two proposals that we'll be considering at the regional meeting. We'll begin with a 5-minute presentation from the creator of the proposal, followed by time for questions and comments. The first proposal is SW 2025-01, Blocked View Suppression Challenge Campaign and Fundraising Content Proposals. At this time, I'll humbly invite Ross Carlson to turn on your video and unmute yourself.
Thank you, Eric, and all. Good evening. And I attended General Council and was quite surprised that the proposal from Shining Waters Regional Council about Broadview supporting Broadview was accepted in part in terms of the affirming the value and importance of Broadview, and that it is a means by which United Church people learn about our denomination. But the subscription campaign challenge and restoring funding to the former level, that got stopped. Now, it was really the funding side that got stopped by the what's called the Way Forward Committee, and they reflected the discussion that had happened in the discussion groups, and so the proposal makes mention of that. But the subscription campaign side of it, that just got stopped really without testing. There was no real communication from the discussion groups about that. So I just felt that it, and Liz McKenzie and I talked about this, and we felt that that was a serious omission. Liz moved an amendment, and that was ruled out of order. So asked to encourage a subscription campaign for Broadview was the purpose of the proposal. And because I wrote it up, and and the original proposal had some money issues, money concerns, I tacked that on using the idea of a contest. Well, the contest was to have a competition between the regional councils. And can I explain that by showing a document? Can you put on a, how do I share screen? Give me
Ross, this is Diane Matheson Jimenez. Would you like to email the document to me and I can share it while you explain it?
Oh, well, that's good help.
Let me put my email address in the chat for you.
The idea of encouraging a national support for Broadview, that's what it's about. And to have a little fun about that, because the idea was a contest. Now, that doesn't have to be every year, but we might be able to identify contributors to Broadview through a fundraising contest. And so the idea would be to have each regional council have a percentage of the amount of money that the national church gives to Broadview. Thank you, Diane. What a help. So the description of how the contest would work is the grant from the mission and service portion reserved for distribution by General Council to the Broadview magazine for the current year is $40,880. Using the number of pastoral charges in each regional council compared to the national total provides a ratio which is then multiplied by 40,880 and divided by 100. Each regional council has a goal to donate. The regional council that achieves this goal the quickest wins the contest. So there would be an icon on each regional council's web page with a link, and Broadview can tell you through their software which regional council reaches their goal first. For example, if you scroll down a bit, I get Shining Waters represents 7.6% of the pastoral charges nationally. And so their goal to win is $3,106.88. So the contest is not overwhelmingly difficult. It is artificially easy. It's designed to create goodwill and get people supporting Broadview. And in each regional council, there is a different objective, and depending on the number of pastoral charges compared to the total. So then, for the one in Quebec, There's only 3.8% of the pastoral charges nationally. So their goal is $1,553.44. So there's a range of objectives depending upon the size of the number of pastoral charges in each regional council. And then, so the idea is to match the National Mission and Service Grant to Broadview with a fundraising contest that is designed to help encourage subscriptions and encourage new subscriptions by advertising it throughout the regional council. So that's what it is, folks. And it's designed to start at March the 1st and end on April 30th. And my hunch is that people won't necessarily stop contributing when they get to the objective for the regional council. So there may be more money, but I thought we'll keep the objective low and create goodwill for Broadview across the country. Thank you. I've had 5 minutes anyway. I'm sorry, folks.
Thank you very much, Ross. Thank you. We open the floor now for questions or comments. Please do raise your hand using the reaction button on the Zoom toolbar or type any question into the chat.
So, Chair, we have Michael and then Charles with their hands up.
Okay, so let's go with Michael, then we'll come to Charles.
Yes, it's Michael Dyatt from North Burnley United Church. First of all, I do want to say that I certainly affirm the importance of Broadview Magazine as a communications vehicle. I'm going to take a little different approach here, just suggest that maybe it's time to look at an alternative format for the magazine. Print publications are great, but they are very expensive to produce. Print costs, mailing costs, etc. And in light of financial constraints, funding challenges, I'm suggesting it might be time to at least look into the possibility of converting to kind of an online format. It's something that a lot of organizations that have print publications are doing. They're often called e-zines. There's many platforms out there, software platforms that make it quite easy to do it. It is a much more cost-effective, cost-efficient way to produce a magazine like this. And although it would be, unfortunate if we had to give up the print publication, I'm just thinking that in light of financial challenges, funding challenges, this may be something that needs to be looked at as a way for sort of ensuring long-term viability of the magazine in a more cost-effective format.
Would you like me to respond, Eric, or maybe I have to respond at the end of the comments from folks?
Yeah, you
Yes,
can
at the
respond
end
at
of
the
the
end. That
comment.
makes sense.
That'll be fine. Thank you, Jody.
Okay, so we can go to the second person.
So that's Charles.
Yes, that is Charles.
Yes, Charles Donnelly, Kingsway Lambton. Just a little bit of explanation. The anticipated contributions, for example, from Shining Waters, do you see this coming from the regional council or from individuals or from congregations?
It would probably be helpful, Ross, if you just wanted to answer that one quickly.
Hi, Charles. My hunch is that it's individuals.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. It's designed. It's designed that way. Yep.
Yeah. And just for clarity, this would be would not count for a charitable donation. Is that correct?
That's correct. It would be a subscription to a journal. Yeah.
Just the oh, you're just collecting subscriptions.
No, well, oh, no, just a moment. Thank you. No, Charles, I got mixed up there. A donation to Broadview is a charitable donation. They have a charitable number, registered charitable number. So I misspoke there. Thank you for listening and allowing me to correct that.
Chair, we have Hewitt Holmes with his hand up.
Thanks very
All right.
much. Hewitt Holmes, Trinity St. Paul's. Thanks for the presentation, Ross. And I'm wondering about a couple of things, but perhaps I need a little clarity on, is what is different in this proposal from the one that actually was passed by the region before that went on to the General Council? That's perhaps the first question I have. And two, how do we take into account the General Council's conversation or lack of discussion about this aspect? What signal does that say to us as a region as we engage in this aspect of the proposal? And thirdly, if we are taking into account what the General Council did or did not discuss about this proposal, how then do we mobilize, or why should we mobilize our region if people don't necessarily believe in the new aspects of the proposal?
Thank you very much, Hewitt. Will Ross respond to this?
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. I know you well, sir. Congratulations on being at Trinity St. Paul's. I didn't know you were down there. And in terms of how this proposal differs from the one that went to General Council, it's quite similar. It has goals for increased subscriptions, and it has a monetary donation character to it. Now, the one to General Council was asking General Council to raise its mission and service grant. Now, the mission and service grant has been reduced over the last while considerably. It's not sufficient presently to cover the United Church component in Broadview. It's really quite far from it. The United Church component is over $80,000 per annum. I've lost track, but $80,000 and not including postage. That's true. And our present contribution is $40,880. So about half of what it costs to produce the United Church component is, we're not even paying our fair share. That's what I would say. Your second point was about how we reflecting in this proposal. I think I am addressing it correctly, compared to how General Council. Now, this is really me maybe mudding, what's that called? Mudding the waters a bit, because the issue that we had with how General Council handled it was with respect to ignoring the subscription campaign. So I could agree to splitting the proposal and test, because I think the subscription campaign could be needs to be tested in our Shining Waters Regional Council and across the church, because it wasn't addressed at the General Council. But you can tell that I'm always good at the kid that swallowed the quarter and everybody's upset, and the grandfather says, call the minister, and everybody turns to the grandfather's, why the minister? And the grandfather says, he can get money out of anyone. So I'm just thinking that we need to have a financial component to the proposal. So that's why that's there. I think I have lost track of my own comment with respect to part 3.
Thank you very much.
Eric, there are questions in the chat, if I might speak those into the plenary.
All right, and I think there was addition from Jocelyn Bear. Jody, you want to respond to Jocelyn's request, if possible? The editor. Is possible.
Yeah, she just indicated that she was available to answer questions if needed. So
Okay.
thank you for that. Yeah.
Okay, so go ahead, Ross, with the questions on the chat.
So the first question from the chat, could this contest start sooner if we promote within our faith communities?
Well, the answer is of course, but this allows for the regional councils to kind of respond to Shining Waters if the proposal's passed, and that will take time. And then they will have to gear up their own pastoral charges to take it to promote it locally, and that will take time. So my thought was to have it between the 1st of March and April 30th, corresponding to Lent, and Easter's late this year, next year. So it would be just after Easter's over, then April 30th comes along. So I think that's why I would thought March and April.
Thanks, Ross. The second question from the chat, what about the concept of a declining interest in the magazine by racialized and Indigenous communities?
Well, the declining interest, Michael's thought comes to mind, question, in terms of having an online process. Broadview has a very good online web page. It's very current. So, and but they don't advertise online subscriptions yet. So the issue would be how to, sort of like the newspapers, how you get money with online subscriptions. So that's the point that hasn't really started. And in terms of, Diane, was it Indigenous people and
racialized and Indigenous communities?
Racialized and Indigenous. Well, that's the subscription campaign end of it. I mean, I would think that, Broadview, we've had an Indigenous moderator, and just lately, Carmen Lansdowne, and I would think that people, so I'm just pulling for I didn't agree. So that's why I'm proposing it. I think you'd have to, the churches that I know that are succeeding are becoming multicultural, and racialized people are coming to our United Churches. And to encourage their presence with a magazine that reflects their faces, I would look. The churches that are surviving are really becoming multicultural, in my view. And to hold those folks in our congregations with a magazine that has an anti-racial perspective for years, I think that would be important.
Ross, another question about okay. Jocelyn has indicated in the chat that she'd be glad to speak to these questions. So perhaps, Ross, we might.
I would be very happy for Jocelyn to speak.
Fine, thank you.
However, just because of time, so after Jocelyn, we would like to move on to the second proposal so that we will not spend too much time here. My apologies. Jocelyn, please go ahead.
Thank you. No, I'm pleased to be here and to hear this conversation. I'm also really quite honored that Ross came up with this proposal post General Council, and that you've, as a body, have deemed this worthy of discussion. So I really appreciate, and I'm grateful to everybody. Just wanted to talk a little bit more about our business and as a registered charity and a media organization. Yes, we still do have print. You may have noticed or heard that we are cutting back on print frequency as a cost-saving measure, but we consider ourselves a media organization. And I know everybody says Broadview Magazine. We have a magazine, but we also have, multiple newsletters. We have a website. We have social media platforms. We're getting onto Substack. We've offered podcasts and webinars. We have an event every month called the Broadview Live, which is a discussion group. So, I just want everybody to understand that, print may be the thing that you know us best for, but it is one part of what we do, one part. The other thing about print is that it's very popular among our donors. It's almost like receiving direct mail every month. That if you get a print magazine, then you are more apt to donate, and that is absolutely true. And among our donors, it's an important piece of communication for them, piece of journalism. And so if we were to go digital only, we would be losing that connection with a very important part of our readership, and a part of our readership that supports us in a huge way. So that is another reason, you might save some printing and mailing costs, sure, but you're going to be losing more from the lack of donations that would follow. Third point on that is that we receive a federal government grant, and it is tied to print publication, and it is a sizable grant. So we would lose that grant. So we have certainly done the math. We do the math every so often again to say, is it time to go digital only? And the answer so far has been no, but we obviously are aware of print subscriptions. It is possible to purchase a single copy of the magazine, but we also want to hold the value of being accessible online and reaching that audience and being part of that Canadian dialogue. So if we were to put everything behind a paywall, we wouldn't be living into that vision of being part of the Canadian dialogue and representing progressive Christianity and the United Church in the Canadian arena. So that is a reason to not put everything behind subscriptions. The other piece that's been asked about racialized communities and Indigenous, I don't know how that statement was made or what information is behind it, because it is not my experience that we are not, maybe they're not coming to the magazine, the print part of that might be true, but certainly we are getting lots and lots of feedback from people in all of our digital platforms who would call themselves racialized and Indigenous and LGBTQ and so on. We have younger audiences there. We have a wider reach there. We have about 50,000 people coming to our website every month. And there's no way to track exactly, what's the demographic of those people. There's not a tracking mechanism for that, but from the interactions that we receive, and it's been a very important to me to increase the diversity of our writers, of our readers, of the way we represent different stories, and that's ongoing work. So those are just some things that I wanted to say, but I'm happy to take any other questions.
Thanks for coming aboard, Jocelyn.
And this could be fun. I think this is a fun idea. Contest is fun, but you decide.
Hi, my name is Keith. I was just the one who raised that comment about the racialized communities, because it's in the report that they shared.
Mm-hmm. I know.
The PDF report. So that's where it was cited. So I just asked for clarification on that.
Yes, I should clarify. I meant when I read that from the General Counsel response, I didn't know how the people who wrote that had come to that conclusion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Jocelyn and Ross. Well, thank you for your insight and presentation. At this time, we'll move to the second proposal for the day, which is SW 2025-02, financial assistance to Shannon Waters congregation. I invite George Isaac to turn your camera, unmute yourself, and have a 5-minute presentation.
Okay, thank you for this opportunity. The proposal is kind of long, and I hope most of you could read it. First of all, I did a lot of statistics on the Shining Waters, and we're not in good shape. We're losing congregations. We're losing people, especially in those under pastoral care. We've gone down from 23,700 to 18,200 under pastoral care. So if that line progresses, we will die. I don't want to be alarmist, but that's a fact. And that we've been on a downward spiral for quite a few years. Now, a lot of congregations are under stress for paying the minister. That's their biggest cost. And I estimated that at least 25% of the congregations in Shining Waters, which there are about 145, can't afford a full-time minister. So that is a big challenge. On the positive side, the region has, as of 2024, from the CRA website, we all fill out a T3010 form every year, and Shining Waters reports that they have $58.3 million in assets. That's over $400,000 for Shining Waters congregation. That's a lot of money. There's no reason for a Shining Waters congregation to close for lack of funds. They can close because of lack of energy or something like that, but not for lack of funds. There's no reason for it. And I might add to people that it's really hard to start a new congregation. It's not so hard to rejuvenate an existing congregation. That's my opinion. And you can tell that by the numbers. If we have 18,000 adherents in 2024, just consider what the total population is of Shining Waters. What's our base to work from? It's enormous. All we have to do is increase the numbers of each congregation by 10 people, and we would really be doing great. So, what does this proposal do? It suggests that 20% of the revenue from property sales be redistributed annually to congregations of faith. And that 20% number is modeled after a general council proposal to allocate that percentage of property sales in regions towards a reconciliation fund. So it's not picked out of the air. I don't know what the status of that is, proposal to the region, but that's where I got the number. And I also think we should be spending some fraction of our total assets on helping congregations financially. And I suggested 5%. If those two things were followed, we would end up about $33,000 for each congregation, which would be a big boost, especially when you look at the numbers and the difficulty congregations have of paying a minister. I know there is another proposal around to set up a fund where congregations would submit proposals to a committee, and that committee would basically decide whether or not the congregation would get money. But I and the congregations that are supporting this proposal don't really prefer that possibility. At the moment, the region does not list who they give funds to, and they operate under really a great veil of secrecy. I can go through why I say that, but you can ask me later. The committee would evaluate. I'm going to walk you through what the committee would decide. Are you a member of Affirm United? If not, probably they'll strike you off the list. Are you an accessible church? If not, they'll probably strike you off the list. Do you have a nearby church you can amalgamate with? If yes, we'll probably recommend you amalgamate or close. Are you a progressive or conservative in your faith? That's open to bias on the committee members. Do you have a connection with the committee? That is a person either on the committee or associated with the executive. If yes, your chances are really increasing that you'll get money. The committee will basically make life or death decisions about your congregation in a very short amount of time, probably without a hearing. Most churches are in difficulty financially. I've heard estimates up to 75% are operating in deficit mode. Perhaps 50 churches will apply for relief, and that probably will be done annually. That will probably mean that we would need to hire several additional people in the region. The bureaucracy doing this is really enormous. Just remember, if you get 50 proposals and you only spend 15 minutes reading each proposal, that's just 11 or 12 hours in reading proposals. It's really an unmanageable, time-consuming process, full of lots of potential bias and problems. What we are proposing is that all congregations be treated the same, and that would encourage innovation, not conformity. There would be no means test on your finances. If you get money and you don't need it, we're recommending you donate it to a charity in the community. It's a very streamlined process. So that's, in a nutshell, what we're proposing.
Thank you very much, George. At this time, we are opening the floor for questions or comments. Please raise your hand using the reaction button on Zoom bar or type your question.
Chair Hewitt Holmes and Michael have their hands up.
Okay, so Michael, Hewitt, let's go.
Oh, thanks so much, Eric. There is a feedback coming on my side. Is it on your side as well? Okay, so
yes,
I'm
I
not sure
do hear feedback.
what technical thing we can do about that. Okay, thanks for the introduction on the proposal, George. My questions are similar to the ones I raised earlier. Particularly because this proposal that you are presenting today was the same or similar proposal that was brought to the last regional council that gave rise to be incorporated in an important aspect of the church's missional priorities, which we will get to decide on when we meet at the end of this week. So the question then is, why have we revamped this proposal if we already have incorporated elements of it into a decision that we are going to be taking this weekend? That's the first aspect of it. And secondly, there is the question around everybody is in need of money. And again, that was one of the grave concern of the last proposal. And that in itself has come back. And I wondered if what has changed, because I am not aware that everybody is in need of money. So what difference is this proposal that you are offering us today from the one that was put into great consideration for our meeting this weekend? Yeah, I will just leave it at 2, because if I get to the third one, perhaps like Ross, you'll just forget it, but that's just 2.
Thank you, Hewitt. And the second question, can it come so that George can respond to that?
Chair, we have Michael with his hand up.
Thank you. So I want to start off by saying that we are in support of this proposal. I know that there was the ad hoc committee formed after this proposal came to the original intermeeting a couple of years ago. The ad hoc committee did its work and did confirm that support for local congregations was a top priority. So we are in support of moving forward at this point and using some of that property sales fund to support the local congregations. Just two comments. One is the amount that the 20% figure seems reasonable, but I'd be somewhat reluctant to commit the council to a specific percentage every year. It might be better to let the council evaluate that percentage each year just based on where the fund is at, if it's increasing, decreasing. So that percentage might go down or go up year by year, but I would want to let the council have that flexibility. And just in terms of the way the money is distributed, it's very sensitive to the fact that we don't want to make it administratively too difficult. I'm just going to suggest perhaps a bit of a hybrid approach, that that percentage, that money that's available, whatever that figure represents per year, maybe a chunk of it, maybe it's 50 or 60 or 70%, gets split up evenly, distributed to the congregations, to all congregations, but maybe there's an amount that's left aside for individual congregations who have greater need to apply for, with some kind of a very simple plan that explains how they would use that money to grow or invigorate or renew their congregations. So it's a little bit of a hybrid approach where everybody will get a payout, but there's an opportunity for congregations with greater need to put in a proposal to get an extra payment, so that there's at least some equity there in terms of the congregations that have greater need.
Thank you very much, Michael. At this time, because of our time, if we can have a final comment or question, then we will invite George to give his final remarks in response.
It looks like you've got Victoria Stewart and Daniel Reed with their hands up.
Thank you. May I be recognized?
Sorry, Eric, did I misunderstand you? Did you say you were going to have the last questions before we had George?
That isn't fair, Jody. We have not had sufficient time.
Sorry, Victoria, I'm just clarifying what Eric said.
I said we can have the last question, then
yes,
George will come.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Victoria.
Thank you very much. I was involved originally with the two proposals last in spring of 2024. We had moved through the process, and the process resulted in the ad hoc committee, which has brought forward a very fulsome report, which is correct. People have noted we will be dealing with later in this process. I would note that the ad hoc committee has focused in on 5 major priorities. They have also highlighted how those priorities should go forward. And certainly one of the major priorities is to get support out to individual communities of faith. The proposal as tabled recognizes this need. I think that Michael's comment that it needs work, and I think that work should be accomplished through the work that is being contemplated in the ad hoc committee's report. You may decide that you need a simplified application process. People are saying the applications are too long to get reports, they're too difficult. You can simplify life down. So I think that there's a basis of response, but it needs to still come forward and be supportive of where the ad hoc committee landed. And then finally, I would like to comment, I have done some analysis on our budget, which we'll be talking about in a couple of days. One thing we are not doing well, and this is important to note, is that, and I'll just give a couple of examples. We have already passed a budget that said that we would support communities of faith in 2025 to the tune of $35,000 for the full year. And if you do your math to the budget year to date, which is 2/3, we should have had out the door $21,000 to communities of faith, and we only managed to get $7,000 out the door. We have several glaring examples of that. One of which, frankly, is social justice, where we have a budget of $35,000, and we have only $3,000 out the door to the end of August. We have a budget that contemplated getting money to people, and we're not achieving that. So that is something that should be contemplated much more closely. And that is the end of my comment. I think that the Dalston ground charge concept is correct, that money has to flow to congregations in need quicker, easier, and in a better, smoother approach. But I don't think just sprinkling it everywhere is necessarily going to be effective.
Chair, we have Daniel Reed with his hand up.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Daniel Reed. I'm a member of the ad hoc committee that's brought forward the other proposal that'll be coming to the floor this weekend. I think I'd like to start just by offering my gratitude to George for your care and your discernment and the Dalston Crown Hill congregation. And I would share the concern that the ad hoc committee experienced for the financial insecurity of the congregations across the regional council. We heard it loud and clear in our consulting work or in our consultation, and it feels like the Dalston Crown Hill proposal and the ad hoc committee's proposal are coming from a similar place in trying to rectify that financial need. I think that our analysis suggested that a grants-based approach enables the region to be strategic, enables discernment to take place, and recognizes that the congregations that make up the Shining Waters Regional Council aren't all the same. We have rural congregations, we've got village congregations, we've got metropolitan congregations, congregations in collaborative ministry, part-time ministry, full-time ministry, multi-staff teams. We're not all the same. And a grants-based approach with discernment enables a response to the specific context, the specific needs and the specific visions of each applicant. And as we read the Dalston Crown Hill approach, I think we would identify that making an equal contribution to each community of faith, regardless of circumstance, so long as it meets an arbitrary attendance cutoff with a clear invitation for those communities of faith to redistribute funds outside of the congregation, for me, at the very least, represents a major shift towards a more congregationalist approach. And I feel that there is value in the discernment and the equity, as opposed to equality, of our conciliar structure as a United Church and as a regional council. I think the other big piece that we heard from congregations as they named a greater request for support was that congregations aren't just asking for financial support. The communities of faith surveyed in our report named a request for greater staff support from the region with folks deployed to offer support in helping with amalgamation or a collaborative ministry or a revitalization of ministry. And that does require some centralization of resources. And if we strip the region centrally in order to put money out into congregations, it's much harder to fund that staff support to congregations that need it. I think, the report, to be clear, does imagine a bold transition towards much more substantive granting. And since 2019, the region's granting has been shrunk considerably as we've sought to rebuild the regional, the fund that enables the regional council's operating budget to be functional. And that's now at a capacity where we can start to envision being much bolder with our granting. And so I do want to be clear that we are also hoping to offer some considerable financial support to the communities of faith. But I hope that the ad hoc report represents a mechanism for doing that work in a thoughtful, prayerful, strategic, discerning fashion.
All right, thank you very much, Dan. Do we have any other question? Any other hands up there?
There are no hands up at the present, Chair.
Okay, and any other question in the chat so that we invite our judge to speak to that and summarize it.
Yeah, okay. With respect to Hewitt Homes, why the proposal now? The proposal now was, I thought it was useful to present the updated statistics on where we are in the region. That's one. How is the proposal different? The proposal is different. And if you remember last time we were proposing to give everyone $4,000. This time we're proposing to give $33,000. There were comments last time that $4,000 wasn't really worth it. I think 33 is a substantial number to give to congregations. I might add that I got a comment back from one of our leadership team members that the region appears to be hoarding money, and I tend to agree with that. They have an obscene amount of money sitting and doing what? We don't know what they're doing. We don't even know how much it is. I only know how much it is from the CRA reports. And so that brings me to another comment which I promised to bring up by one of our supporting congregations, is that how much is available every year for distribution? It would be nice to know how much is liquid assets, if you like, that we could distribute. That's not in the budget, and it would be nice to know. I don't know how much is tied up in actual property, how much is in investments, and so forth. So that seems to be a concern by some of our supporters. So I hope like that can be known by the meeting on Friday or Saturday. I thought I gave support for the 20% figure, and the 5% figure comes a bit out of the air, but I think the proposal itself mentions that should be considered by the executive and the finance committee every year, how much is available and how much would be realistic to give out. I guess someone else suggested that a blended approach would be good, so that congregations could ask for more money than the actual 33,000 we were proposing. And that's also mentioned in the proposal, that some congregations will need more money. They may need a new roof. And, there's no reason why we can't grant money for a new roof. The region owns the property. They should be paying for a new roof. They're going to get the property anyway in the end if the congregation disappears, and most of us are going to disappear if we follow the current trend. So that's my response to that one. And I really don't like the idea of setting up a very bureaucratic procedure for doling out the money. It doesn't work. As Victoria mentioned, we aren't giving out what money we're supposed to be giving out right now. We had a cluster meeting in our area because we're missing presbytery meetings, and I was told by one of the staff that why didn't you apply for money for the cluster meeting? As it turned out, our main expense was actually we paid for lunch, but the cluster itself paid for the lunch. Well, I had no idea that money was available. So the region may have money, but they're certainly not making it available to people. I guess that's it. I would like to see those numbers, so finance numbers for the meeting on Friday and Saturday, if they could be made available.
Eric, may I just raise, there's a point of order in the chat.
Yeah.
Hewitt, you raised a point of order. Could you say some more about that, please?
I should have typed point of privilege and not order, so I stand down, but I do want to make a comment, if I'm allowed. It's not an order. I'm sorry. We're not out of order. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Hewitt.
Oh, yes, thank you. In light of what George said, and it seems to me that his comment about the process is so important, I would want to suggest to George that an amendment be made to this proposal about that particular aspect, to zero in on that aspect, because it seems to me that based on what he has said, that is a critical aspect that he wants to critique about the decision that we're going to take at the end of this weekend. And that, if you do that, George, then it strengthens the uniqueness of this particular proposal. Just a thought.
Thank you very much, Hewitt. Any other comments or questions? Then, George, can you offer your final statement? You have 1 minute to.
So George offered his statement. Eric, thank you.
Welcome.
Can I respond to Hewitt's remark?
And I think Maria has her hand.
Well, Hewitt made an interesting proposal, but you have to remember that this proposal is also supported by various congregations, and it's been circulated to a wide variety of congregations. So actually making an amendment to the proposal is difficult. I can mention this at the meeting. I will certainly mention at the meeting that we object to this very bureaucratic process of doling out the money, and I will do that. But I don't want to formally change the proposal because of the endorsements from other congregations, some of whom aren't represented on this call.
All right. Thank you, George. George, we had Maria answer. So, Maria, if there is any other hands, we can take 1 or 2 questions before we bring it again. So, Maria, please go ahead.
Thank you. I am Maria Minsanti, and I'd like to highlight 2 concepts that relate to this. One is that volunteer time is precious. When volunteers have to spend 8, 10, 12, 20 hours putting together a grant proposal, they cannot spend those same 10, 20 hours on ministry. So make it easy. I'm supporting what George is saying. Make it easy. Don't make it very, very difficult. And I've been through with different congregations that have gained grants, including a federal grant. It was full-time work. So I'm in ministry. I'm not a volunteer. I keep day by day highlighting the value of volunteer time. And when we did have a proposal for a grant that the congregation I served actually got, volunteers were putting in the equivalent of full-time work, and my workload doubled. So whatever is considered full-time, it was twice as much. You have to honor volunteer time. Make it easy. Don't make too many blocks, and you have to too many hoops to fall through. That's the one. The second thing is when you assist a congregation that is in its location, it has connections, and the United Church keeps highlighting the importance of connections for spirituality, for discipline, for justice. It's all based in connections. Church growth is also based in connections. Children need face-to-face encounters for organic growth. It cannot be only on, they have to develop the relationships. Neighbors get together. New Canadians are learning English, and they learn English when they're welcomed into a community. Some come from very, very traumatized situations in other parts of the world. And there is a safe gathering in a safe community. And they, they describe it as, pardon me, finding a new family. And so the face-to-face, and that argues that there is a role, a vital ministry that is tied to the location in a community where people gather in person, and you cannot substitute that. I'm involved in pastoral care. For pastoral care, no one has asked me to send a virtual picture. They asked me to be there in person, because the impact is different. Also to highlight the importance of in-person, which is tied to, it can be very strongly tied to a location. The biology is different. So active participation in a faith community is the strongest predictor of quality in the senior years, quality aging. It's tied to active participation in a church community. There is a hunger, especially after the shutdown, a hunger for face-to-face engagement, both in seniors and also in children, teens, young adults. When you see children, teens, young adults, right up to seniors gathering face to face, that's invaluable. That's when the New Canadians begin to relax and begin to feel like they found a home. Also, a congregation can develop its place, that Sunday school can have its home where they can have their things, they can hang up their art, etc. The congregation I serve also has developed vegetable gardens where children and people of all ages plant and care for food, and anybody takes it. That too is tied to location. So make it easy so the volunteers can care for the children, care for those who are ill and in other kind of need. They can put their energy into growing vegetables. They can put that energy in developing relationships, not spending a whole lot of time on grant applications, because you cannot bypass personal contact, biological, the impact is biological. And so please recognize the value of volunteer time, and recognize that for some communities work very well on the internet. Some need the face-to-face contact, which is tied to a place, whether that's vegetable gardens, whether that's a home for a group of seniors to gather, whether that's a home for children to gather and be mentored. So volunteer time, and recognize the value of place. If George mentioned needing a roof, when the volunteers spend their time fundraising for a new roof, to follow up on George's example, that time is lost for ministry. To free them up to actual ministry, which is contact, developing relationships, take off the burden of fundraising for a new roof. That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you very much, Maria. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Ross and George for your proposals. And I also want to thank each one of us for our participation in this conversation. These are the two proposals that we'll be considering on Saturday, God willing, at 12:45. We hope our discussion this evening will help all of us to make an informed decision when we gather on Saturday. Once again, thank you. Let us please end this meeting with a word of prayer. Loving God, well, thank you for this gathering. As we live, we not live in your presence. So we pray that your angels will lead, guide, and protect us. Bless us through our discussions this weekend. Bless us through our deliberations. Let your angels go before us so that victory will be ours as a regional council. This and many more we ask through Christ Jesus, our Lord and Savior, who was given to us as a gift. Now, as we live, may the peace of God that encompasses all human understanding lead us through. Amen. Once again, thank you very much for coming, and thanks for your participation. Reverend Jody, I will hand it over to you.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.